one of the segments I wanted to do is your very first job.
As detasseling corn.
What?
Detasseling corn. You know what that is?
No, is it just?
Yeah, so I grew up in southern Illinois, around tons of cornfields, and so there's two ways to do it. You can do it manually, or you could do it with a machine. And I was too short. I was too little because I was 15 years old. I don't think I was even supposed to be working. Can you work at 15? So I had to ride on the machine because otherwise I wasn't tall enough, and it's horrible. You get all cut up. And you pick the tassel off the corn so that it doesn't I can't even remember the name of the word.
So for how many hours?
It was a couple hours. It wasn't really that long of a day. It was actually my first paycheck was like $9 or something crazy like that.
So what was it called?
Detasseling corn.
Detasseling corn. Like that's a first.
Yeah, I didn't last very long. So. Because that sucked. It was really terrible. And then I went to work at the mall at Bressler's Ice Cream, which was like a knockoff of Baskin Robbins.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your first job?
My very first
Shop
job
girl?
was not the shop girl, but pretty close. I walked into a country club, I didn't know the country club was closed at the time, but I walked in, the one gal that was there was like, yes, we will take you. And I said, I'll do whatever you need. And she said, why don't you start with waitstaff? So my very first day, someone very important came and sat down in my section, and I spilled a whole pitcher of iced tea all over that very important country club guest. And the woman that hired me said, this is not working out for you. So we'll just put you on the golf cart as the golf cart
That would
girl.
be so much fun.
And that lasted 2 years.
Oh, well,
Yeah, I
good.
had a good time. Had a really good time.
How
And I
old were
learned
you?
sales pretty well. 20. It was my very first job.
20?
First job ever. I spilled a pitcher of tea on a very, very important club member. Probably one of the founding club
How did they
members.
act?
She was very upset at me. Very, very upset at me. To the point where the staff had to pull me away.
Well, at least you didn't get fired. They let you.
No,
they
I didn't
moved
get
you to
fired.
something
She
better
just said,
suited.
this is not your jam. This is not the vibe.
Yeah, think?
Yeah, this is not your vibe. Let's put you outside and mingle. And that worked out. And I think, honestly, that I'm a very shy person by nature. And being out on a golf cart put me in front of a lot of different personalities. And it made me comfortable in that moment. But as a person, on my personal level, I'm just very quiet, very shy.
So I think that prepared you for sales. Because you
Maybe.
able-
Yeah. And also to keep your mouth shut. If you see something, don't say something. If you go on a golf
Did you
course.
see a lot of stuff?
I saw a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a lot of stuff. But, it was kind of like sales. We sold drinks and, you upsell from one thing to another. And that lasted for quite a bit. And one of the members owned a technology company. And that's how I even got into technology
Oh, wow.
at all. And so he hired me right away as part of a bigger company. And
What kind of
I loved
technology?
it. We did the service for 7-Eleven stores when their gas pumps went down. We would help the gas stations. I would never think that would bring me full circle again in my career because I did work in the petroleum sector for a while, but I did that for a while. I had the best stats of the company because when some callers did not want to deal with women, and they would ask me put them back in the queue, and I would plug into my CRM closed. And I had the best closure rate in the company. But yeah, so it was a great pre-introduction to somewhat of a payments experience. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's... Well, my first job, I just remember it was hard to fill out the application. I was 8 years old, and my dad started one of the first fruit stands. I think it's the first fruit stand in LA. Now you probably see a bunch. So my dad opened up a fruit stand when I was 8 years old at Alvera Street, which is a historical park. I know you guys aren't from LA, but a lot of tourists go there. It's the Mission is across the street. It was the first, and they've kept it very historical. All the businesses, they kept the businesses like very authentic. They have like this adobe, like a house where you could go tour and see what things were like back then.
The first street ever built in LA with the very first house.
Madison knows more about it because she loves that place.
I know. Well, it's a big deal.
The history. Yeah.
So my dad opened up a fruit stand, and I was 8 years old, and we sold mangoes on a stick. And I remember at home he would, on weekends it would get really packed because people would go to the mission, and then it would go and they would just buy. Everybody wanted to buy fruit, and he had chili, salt and chili, and I mean, so on the weekends it was packed. And I remember I would spend the weekend, he would pay me, I think $5 a week. And then I paid tithe on it too. I made sure that
Okay.
10%, because my parents were very Christian, which is rare for Mexicans. But I remember peeling cucumbers. And he had a big barrel full of water, and you peel them, throw them in. I mean, it was just like over and over. I was child labor. So then I would work at Alvera Street, and it was kind of like and yelling and trying to help out and cleaning. My dad would go clean where the chili thing, it would get dirty, clean it up. He was just he was the toughest boss I've ever had. And then during the summer, they would have all these tours, Japanese tours. So I learned all the fruit in Japanese. Igosento, what was it? Bingo was orange, I think. Goyusento is 50 cents. I mean, it was like I learned, and I yell it, and the Japanese tours were really cute. They would say picture, because they always want to take pictures, and my dad would let them go on the inside of the business, and they would take a picture. My dad would give them a business card, and he goes, mail it to me. So my parents have albums of albums. These people would write them letters, and it's in the picture. My mom has albums of the Japanese tourists. But yeah, I was 8 years old. That was my first sales job. I was salesperson of the year, I think, when I turned 9. I didn't get a plaque. So I worked for my dad, and it was hard. He was a tough, as I got older, when I was 14, he would leave me in charge of the whole fruit stand when it was slow. And one of the things is the fruit had to be, because he had these barrels, and he was in the cover of a bunch of magazines, and there's a lot of movies that filmed in my dad's business. They would pay him a lot of money, like Mel Gibson and Johnny Glover. What was their movies?
Oh,
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon did a whole thing there where they blocked him. They were at the fruit stand. So the thing was, my dad had these barrels, and you had to and you would buy these huge apples and these huge oranges. Everything had to be, he sold kumquats, really exotic sugar cane, and you had to have the fruit barrels full. If they were going low, you had to go back, and I mean, everything had to be on top. And I remember I'd be like, okay, he's gonna come anytime now, and I would make sure, and I'm cleaning the table with the chili and salt, and then mopping, and mopping the floor, and he'd show up, and I'd be waiting for that praise, and then he'd come and he'd walk around, and he'd go, the bucket with the water, that smells, you should have thrown it. I mean, he'd always find the bad thing, but it made me he was such a perfectionist. But the one thing I really respected about my dad, which helped me with sales, when I was in management, my dad, when he had all of his employees, he would get on the floor and clean things. There's no ego. He rolled up his sleeves, and he was one of them. They were a team. We got this. This is a big day. There's a big fiesta. They're going to have piñatas. And he would roll up. My dad wasn't a boss that would sit there and tell everybody what to do. He would roll up his sleeves and cut and mop and he wanted the same from us.
That was one of the core values at Capital One that I always remembered is, it was so simplistic. But one of their core values was just do the right thing.
I think that's where I know where I got my work ethic, and also my entrepreneurial spirit was my dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, 8 years old was my first. I think I couldn't wait to turn 16 so I could never work for him again. And Broadway was across the street. My parents lived across from a mall. And I went to Broadway when I was 16 and applied, and I became a Broadway salesperson and never looked back at the
Back
food
in
stand.
sales.
Never looked back.
Subscribe and follow Girls Just Want to Have Funs for the rest of this story and others like it.